Lamar Ellis, this is long overdue. So excited to have you on the Drone Pilot Hangar, and you get a special background today with my two assistants here on the Drone Pilot Hangar. So I'm very excited to have you.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Bronwyn. It's been a long time. We've known each other for so many years, and I've heard about your name in passing through everybody that's in this Atlanta area. So I'm really glad that you and I get a chance to sit down and talk this afternoon. So,
Absolutely. I mean, you bring so much incredible wealth of information and knowledge and wisdom in this space.
uh,
And before we go any deeper, and as we get into that, I mean, you are currently the president of AUVSI Georgia.
yeah.
You're running your own firm. You've got Drone Noir. You have been incredibly engaged. You're also obviously a Part 107 and FAA Drone Pro. My brother in the safety team world. So, Lamar, this is a lot, but this is only a little bit. I mean, you're obviously currently leading drone education services. So, tell us what we're missing and that I didn't get a chance to highlight.
Oh my gosh, Bronwyn, I love being busy. And as you well know, most of us in this space are just constantly juggling a whole bunch of plates at the same time.
Yes,
And so I'm very fortunate that I am a member of AUVSI, and the Georgia chapter has given me the opportunity to go out there and meet and greet a variety of different individuals. And in Atlanta, we now have the Archer Aviation's bringing in the advanced air mobility. They're building their midnight here in Covington. I just got word that Wing is going to be delivering in the Atlanta area.
yes,
So things are moving along pretty fast, and I use the chapter to engage and get people together in the community, and that's one of the beauties is that there's not too many opportunities unless you're a member of an organization to get together and collaborate.
that's
And
true.
so when I got in charge, I was just all right. I'm going to use this for the Part 107 pilot to the CEO of a company and just bring them all together in the same room. And it has been really effective. So I'm looking forward to the day that I can get you to come and speak to the chapter. Because I think that,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's in being an FAA Drone Pro. Oh my gosh, that has changed my life. I
Wow.
It really has. I was in St. Louis 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and I was there with I had Travis Schwinn and
Yeah,
Randy Ottinger.
Randy Ottinger. Yeah.
Yeah, they came in to my seminar, and Rich Yoakum came out and flew the
That's
Drone
my
Pro.
buddy.
Yeah,
Rich is actually he's one of our instructors here at University. So Rich
is
is
he really?
yeah, Rich is my right hand guy.
Oh my gosh! Well, I was so fortunate because I did it at the conference center,
Hmm.
and so they came out that afternoon, and that was the very first time that I gave an educational class. That the class stayed an extra 2 hours after the class was over with, for the demonstrations and just the camaraderie. It was really cool. I really enjoyed
Wow.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah. So
I'm sorry I missed you.
well, I tried to call you, but I think you were out of town. I think you were traveling at that time, like you always do. So
Hmm.
it is. But being part of the community gives opportunities to get out there and at least talk. I've
Yeah.
given seminars and presentations for the FAA safety team on waivers and remote ID and beyond
Right.
line of sight, and
Right.
anything that is kind of needed just to get it out into the public sphere. It's
Right.
been a lot
Right.
of fun.
Yeah. I mean, this industry is, it's moving like lightning when you think about all of advanced aerial mobility, but at the same time, it's still slow going. And adoption is, I would say, unequal at best. But I think we're getting there. And I actually think by the time we get complete industry and embrace, if you will, our acceptance, we will be at, Part 108 and we'll be at, autonomy. Maybe not completely and fully, but I think that BV loss will get wrapped up in there. But before I let you get into all that, tell us about now how you got into the industry. I know that You've been a certified, appraiser for over 30 years, and you started to kind of meld the industries of real estate and then the drone world together. And how did this come about for you?
It was a news report back in
Hmm.
2014. I'm about to celebrate the 10 years of when I first got into this in July.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
my grandfather had a house down on
Hmm.
Captiva Island, which is in West Florida. And the news he would always have cocktails before dinner. And so we'd watch the news. So we were watching the news, and a report came on privacy infringement and security risk, and it was drones. And they had a Phantom 2. And the news reporter took the Phantom 2 from the front of this house in Naples, Florida, and that, multi-million dollar properties, to show the people that were sitting in the pool in the backyard. And I'm watching it, and as the drone goes up, and with my real estate background, I'm going, "Oh my gosh, this is a game changer for real estate," because I could care less about the security and the privacy infringement. I was looking at the house, I was looking at the property, I
Right.
could see things that I never saw before. And they got to the pool, and of course, you get it's like, oh my gosh, there's people at the pool, and you can spy on them, and that freaked me out too. But I knew right at that moment that drones were going to be a game changer for real estate, and so I looked at my grandfather at that moment. I said, "This has changed my life. This is what I'm going to do." And I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew at that moment that that was what I was going to get into.
Wow. And that was 10
Yeah.
years ago. And you went from that to FAA Drone Pro, leading the Georgia AUVSI group. I mean, that's a lot in a short period of time. You've seen a lot of change.
Oh yeah.
I think I've been in it now for, let's see, 5, 3, 8 years, maybe 9. So yeah, it's going by pretty quickly. And what was then the catalyst for you then to create drone education services? I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but what kind of was the key to that for you?
Well, that's I can't believe it how many challenges and obstacles that I've had throughout my career. However, this is the only industry where I have actually had a challenge or an obstacle pop up in front of me that I've been able to deal with and handle the way it's supposed to be. It's almost as if God has blessed me with this career. I cannot I've just got to give thanks. I can't believe that I've got this opportunity. So what happened was back in that 2014, I was a leader in the Appraisal Institute. So I went out to Dallas to meet with the board of directors. So I started floating the idea, hey, drones, they're going to change real estate. And everybody was jumping up and down going, oh my gosh, yes. And so I freaked out. I was like, I'm getting scared because all these people are jumping into this industry. And so I came back and I talked to my executive director, and she said, okay, you've got a class in 3 months. And now all I had was that 15-second report. And so I now had a class that I needed to teach. So I went out and as you know, back in 2014, there weren't that many pilots, but I was interviewing everybody I could. And I was in a bank one afternoon, and I said, talking to the teller, saying, "Hey, do you know anybody in the drone industry?" And the bank manager walked out of her office, and she goes, "Yes, we just signed one as a client today." And it was Roman Mola with Flyworks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I got his number, and so I called him up, and he actually flew all the properties for me my very first um, presentation.
Wow.
And ever since then, it's been things like that have just popped up. And
Amazing.
yeah, that very first class I taught was scary because I
Oh,
really
yeah.
didn't know that much.
Oh, I know, right? I'm with
Yeah.
you. I've been there, and I'm just like, make sure you don't miss anything. And the hours spent, putting together the decks and the presentations, making sure you got everything lined up. Absolutely. So
Oh,
what have you seen change in that though? Like in your classes, like how has it morphed? Obviously, your confidence, but
Well, of course, you know, when I first got in, I really didn't know anything about drones, and yet I was teaching about drones. I was, you know, because there really wasn't that much material. Well, back in, I guess, 15 and 16, all of a sudden there were a lot of magazines that started to pop up. And so I
mm,
started collecting a lot of material on what was going on in the industry. And it was looking like it was going to, I really thought at that time that I would be behind the curve. I thought it was going that fast. But as you know, the government does not work as fast as what we wanted to on occasion. And I'm actually kind of glad because now I've gotten to be in a position where I can actually take advantage of the opportunities that I laid down in those days. But
right.
back in those days, it was my friendships like with Roman and being able to get out there with members of the community and actually see it. There were a lot of rogue pilots, and at that time there was only the 333 exemption to be able to do commercial work. So, because when it was August 18th of
Hmm.
2016.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I was doing on that day? I was serving jury duty. I was
Oh
so mad.
no.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You're like, I need to be over the FAA test center.
Yeah, I know. I was at the test center a week later, but
Okay.
you know it. So it essentially, I worked with Roman for about 2 or 3 months to get
Hmm.
an idea what the business was, and oh my gosh, it was so wide open. We were doing television commercials, we were doing advertisement for farming equipment, we were doing inspections on homes and real estate. It was amazing all the opportunities that were out there. But once the 107 got passed, all of a sudden things started to slow down in
Yeah.
the industry because there was a lot of competition, and it was what was it? Cheaper, faster, better became cheaper, faster, and the better equipment, and that's how people were advertising themselves.
You're right. I mean, people came out, and it really it did start with like the photography and
Yeah,
videography projects, and people were charging a low price just to get in the door, and it just started to kind of taint people's thinking, and right out the gates. Yeah, that conversation's been had for a very long time. Yep, agreed.
and it still is like that. There's a lot of rogue pilots out there that do not understand the rules and regulations. But I think with recent events, we're going to start seeing a little bit more enforcement of the
And
airspace.
and there should be. I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you is about um, when as you're encountering new users, as we are as well, what are you seeing? What are some of the biggest challenges with some of your students and or just people as you're encountering them as a drone pro out in the field? What are you seeing as some of the misconceptions?
The misconceptions are that there are rules, but I don't need to follow them because I'm not flying for commercial use. Or if I don't understand the rules, then you can't really bust me because I just ignorance is bliss. Now, you know as well as I do that ignorance is not bliss, but as far as the enforcement goes, there hasn't really been a really big push to try to get these rogue pilots off out of the air
Right.
at this moment. And um, I've confronted a few. It was interesting. Last year, I went to the Atlanta Jazz Fest at Piedmont,
Hmm.
and there were drones flying everywhere. And I walked up to the police officer and I was like, "Man, they're drones in the sky. Aren't you concerned? Are you not going to do anything about this?" And he was like, "Well, no. If they're unless they're uh, dropping anything on people, or we're not taking care of it." Well, a year later, I went this year. It was Memorial Weekend, and there was not a drone in the sky. So I think that they've eliminated that risk that was out there. But yeah, there was,
Yeah.
I've I've run in the Peachtree Road Race, and there are drones flying over all the runners on the street. So I've seen drones everywhere, and it was a matter of fact,
Oh yeah.
it was one of those moments that actually was one of the biggest things I did with AUVSI. Uh, we had Exponential here in 2021.
I was there.
Okay. Did you go to the party at the Steady Hand Brewing Company
I
with
did not.
okay. Well,
I remember
yeah,
that though.
Okay. Well, I was the one that put that on.
Okay.
And what it was that 4 months earlier, I was there, and they were giving a concert, and it was an outdoor concert. It was at the brewery, and somebody was flying illegally over the crowd, and people were jumping up and down trying to grab the drone out of the sky. So as soon as they landed, I went up to the pilot and I said, "Hey, you can't do this." And so I started pointing around. I was like, "You can fly there, you can fly there," and
Yeah.
started pointing all over the place. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is a great place to throw a party." And at that time, AUVSI had stopped doing their party for Exponential.
Mm.
So I jumped in and I said, "Hey, can the chapters do one?" And they backed me. And so I got 15 different companies to come out there and showcase their drones in the parking lot of the place. And so we had barbecue, beer, and some blues music. And it was quite an interesting event.
I did not
So
make it. I actually just live a couple of doors from the conference center, and so I think I went home.
I don't
We were
blame
doing,
you.
I think, our first big podcast thing there. I'm going to ask you a question just quickly, just off the topic, and kind of date us here.
Yeah.
Did you attend the Georgia Drone Summit in 2017 in Athens?
Was that the International Drone Day?
No, no. This was
Okay.
just a bunch of folks in the Southeast region, but it was the first. I mean, there are quite a few people that you know,
Oh, yeah.
and I know who were all there. And I was just wondering if you had attended that. But that's like my first. I think I was doing a moderating a panel, and
Okay.
I think Bob Johnson was on it, and some other folks speak at the devil.
Yeah, I
But
know.
yeah, so it it is really interesting to see, how far we've come, but also to your point, just we're from a regulatory perspective, we're still kind of baby stepping in a lot of areas. And so looking ahead, how do you really see BB loss and Part 108 impacting workforce development? I'm sure like you, I've gotten so many requests from economic development centers and folks like, hey, we want to train a bunch of pilots. And I'm like, that's great. But if you're in a certain part of the country, I'm like, we can train you, but I don't know where they're going to go work.
Right.
What do you think is going to happen? You think it's going to, especially with AI and autonomy, will this increase the drone pilot in, population, or do you think this is going to stymie it?
I think we're at an interesting place right now in time. I think the 108 is certainly a great thing because it does allow for beyond line of sight. But I don't think it's for somebody of my nature. I think it's more for corporations that have their own in-house groups that are going to be able to take advantage of it, like right-of-way associations, power groups, um, Department of Transportation, where
Mhm.
they have pilots that are needing to fly beyond line of sight and they've got the enterprise systems that can do that. For somebody like me, I think I have to wait until they've proven that it works
Mhm.
before it starts to trickle down to individual pilots that are working for themselves.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I also think that, it's also that future proofing. Is technology going to get to a level to where what we have today is not considered as good a system or as proficient as what we might be developing next year or even tomorrow? It's
Right.
amazing how the technology is changing. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
once we have a proven resource that has demonstrated that you can fly beyond line of sight, uh, we'll start getting more and more pilots that will be recognized
Mm.
as far as being able to do it. I wish that I had more of a positive spin on it, but I'm really starting to. I've heard too much that states that they it is a rollout that is needed for the industry, but it's going to be for operations that have already proven that they need to use for beyond line of sight. I don't think for somebody like me in the city of Atlanta, I'm going to get beyond line of sight here because of the airspace is so congested.
Oh, yeah. 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 Big Hartsfield Jackson is a challenge, and then PDK and Charlie Brown. I mean, these local regional airports present a really big challenge. So it will be interesting to see how this works. But I know there's been delivery already happening in Atlanta
Hmm.
with Drone Express and pizza delivery. So I think as we become more practiced as an industry, and we get better a better safety matrix for the sky through with the FAA for the airspace, I think there will eventually be a very nice happy medium, but there's a lot in the middle
There is.
before we get there.
Just the mere fact that we're addressing it is huge because it's the holy grail of flight. It's the one thing that really opens the door for a lot of different types of operations. And I don't think people should get frustrated in the fact that it might take another year or 2 years before it trickles down to maybe my level of proficiency. But I know it's going to be happening.
Yeah,
And
it will.
preparing for that day is probably the best way so that you can show your proven track record, with the accurate logs and your compliance and, the remote ID and everything else that's required in this environment to be able to showcase that you can do it properly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think about the equipment that we all really need to bring BB loss to light? To life, to light, and to light. But yeah, what do you think, and what are you seeing? What are your hopes and your
I,
vision telling you?
it's interesting because we are in an environment where we could possibly have a set of drones that are no longer utilized for um, government work,
Oh yeah,
the Chinese drones. And I think we could possibly end this conversation today and an executive order will be coming down tonight. It's that I've heard it's that close to being passed.
yeah,
I have flown. I've got a DJI. I've got an Autel. I've got a Unique. I've got a Parrot. And I bought the Parrot because I was doing some flying for the government, and I needed to have a USA made drone
yeah,
for that. And I looking at the opportunities, and yes, there is a space for people to jump in. It's just a matter of how do we get them into the space, get them approved, because under AUVSI we've now got a blue list
yeah.
for drones that the government approved, and now we're looking at a green list, which is essentially, I guess, friendly countries that are putting together these kind of drones. And I've seen them. Uh, it's just a matter of uh, its cost. I know
Yeah,
that yeah, a lot of people have gone with and I have to admit that some of the Chinese brands are so much better and so much cheaper
yeah,
than you know, what has been produced in the USA.
yeah. I mean, this is a broad conversation across many industries and categories, obviously.
Right.
Um, and I think there'll be a lot of really good new pieces of equipment that are coming. But again, just got to get the manufacturing dialed up, the financial aspect for people to be able to afford to design and build here. And then the price points, because it does cost a little bit more to make stuff here.
It
So
does.
yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Um,
Um, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I do know that there are companies out there, South Korean, Japanese, Taiwanese, Ukrainian, that are all vying for spaces within the United States to build. And I've actually uh, participated with a couple of Ukrainian companies that actually are, they know how to upscale and mass produce lots of drones.
Oh
And
yeah.
they are engaged in the agriculture. Their agriculture drones are just amazing, because all we hear about are the destructive wartime drones. But think about this: Ukraine was actually the place where most of the crops for Europe were planted.
Mm-hmm.
and still are. So
Absolutely.
agricultural drones are such a huge benefit for their yield and production.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, they produce more drones than all the other European countries combined.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Exactly.
and so, maybe if they can bring that opportunities of upscaling mass production here to the United States, and maybe that'll drive down cost a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you're looking at the components such as the sensors and the
Oh yeah.
mineral. Yeah,
It's a domino effect, right?
it is
It's
true.
does it's not just one thing, it's it's several things. Interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Um so when you combine, your years of experience and the skills that you bring to the table, what would be your top three, on your wish list of what you wish would happen next in the industry for us to be
Uh,
more, to be safer, to be faster, more
I
effective?
I wish there was more of a push. I hate the fact that I'm saying this, but I wish there was more of a push of enforcement so that pilots would start flying with inside the rules that are up there, because you're in an airspace. And it's not, what is it, the old adage, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Mm,
And we keep hearing about that. And um, I'm all about safety. And I don't understand the arguments of, I don't want people knowing that I'm the pilot behind that craft that's in the sky. You're actually in the airspace with other. So it's safety is really what it's all about for me. And I want people to fly safely and fly within the rules. And that includes everybody from, a pilot like myself to law enforcement.
yeah.
We've all got to comply with what's going on, because we are all sharing this airspace. And my fear is that all it takes is a couple of rogue pilots to do something
Yeah.
that's going to shut us all down.
I mean, when they were using the large water haulers or tankers during the LA fires, and that one drone hit the one tanker and they had to
Yeah,
ground it because I was like, oh no, those things just make me. I started thinking about my insurance is about to go up. We could get grounded. You
yeah.
know
And you know what kind of drone that was, don't you?
what was it?
It was a mini Mavic.
I knew it was a DJI. I wasn't sure which model.
Yeah, so a small, less than 250 grams.
And it left a nice big dent,
Yeah, yeah. Took that aircraft out of the sky for a week or two.
and it was so needed at the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if a drone appears in the sky when there are firefighting efforts going on, they will ground their craft, all firefighting aircraft, for 30 minutes after the drone has no longer been
Yeah,
spotted in the sky.
absolutely.
So there was a horseshoe fire in California back in 2016 that they saw a drone in the sky. They took the drone out of the sky. The fire was essentially contained up until that moment. And then it burned another, hundreds of thousands of acres, because they didn't want to take the chance. And we see what happened with the super scooper.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it is
Yeah.
definitely something that, is, I, and it's these pilots that don't understand. Like there was a pilot in LA that actually um, was barbecuing one afternoon, heard the police coming around the corner and they were chasing somebody, and stuck his drone up in the sky and hit the police helicopter.
Oh no.
And it didn't do damage, but it's just the potential.
Yeah.
I attended one of the Drone Pro webinars, and drone hit just a little bit of the rotor,
Yeah.
$80,000 worth of damage to the hell.
Amazing.
Yeah. And you wouldn't think that that would cause any kind of damage like that, but it does. And all it takes is somebody to, you know, get caught in that situation. So
Well, I mean, it goes back to your point around ensuring that people really understand the rules. Because I get a lot of people, then you get the family and the friend request, and I'm like, if you're not ready to do the Part 107, that's fine, I get it. And I'm like, but you've got to take the FAA trust. I said, take you 20 minutes. If
yeah,
you're going to be flying, you need to understand what the rules are. Because to your point, if I just, took off down the road didn't have a driver's license and I'm driving, at this point in time, the police are like, there's really no excuse, lady. I mean, we've kind of been out here with driver's license for a very long time.
Oh no.
And as an adult, if you don't understand that and you're hopping behind the wheel of a car, that's a problem. And so I think, to your point, as we get to a more crowded airspace, this becomes even a bigger challenge. Um, that leads me to some of the work that you've done in the past, when it comes to kind of sharing ideas and helping people understand what's going on in the industry. You ran a little operation called Drone Noir. Tell us about that.
That was my first company,
Uh
and I thought, how clever. Uh,
huh.
Excuse me. It was Drone Noir. Noir stood for news, opinions, information, and reviews. And I was like, oh, this is so clever. Oh, but I began to realize over time that cleverness is not always a mark for increasing your business. And so people thought I was somewhat nefarious, or I filmed in a film noir kind of, way. It did not
Oh,
have any of the impact that I was looking for. So, um, it, I loved the opportunity of having it because I learned an awful lot, but it didn't go anywhere.
yeah,
And I was challenged because nobody recognized me as an educational leader. So I
right.
sat down one afternoon and I laid down a marketing for dummies book and went page by page. And it said the number one thing is state what you do. And so that's where drone education services came from.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it comes down to the branding, doesn't it?
It really does.
Uh-huh.
It
Uh-huh.
does. You
It
can
really
shoot
does.
yourself in the foot with that one.
Oh yeah. I totally understand.
Yeah.
Um, well, before I let you go, I
Hmm.
wonder if there's anything else you wanted to share, because I got a special question for you on this episode.
Oh,
What else is kind of rattling around for you in terms of what you think is the most important thing for both the folks on the pilot side as well as the folks who are on the hiring side of this industry?
okay. Well, which one do you want me to address? I'll address the hiring side.
Okay.
Okay, we have a list of things that we have to have as pilots, and that is, you have to have your drones got to be registered. You have to have the certifications. And you also have to have your training up to date. So those are three items that I always like to state to the employers. And then there's also insurance. I carry a monthly insurance when needed. I haven't been flying a lot lately, so I've yeah, and there are a lot of great carriers out there for insurance.
And that
So
doesn't, then there's also your cyber, and of course you got to have your business insurance
yeah,
and your liability insurance. So it starts to really kind of multiply.
it does, and it's also I also like the question, have you ever had a problem? And that's one of the local jokes that's around is like, have you ever had a problem? And you ask a pilot that, and if they say they've never had a problem, well, then I know they don't fly because experience comes with mitigating the problems that you have while you're in the field. And I've got numerous ones that it could be from the SD card was full, or the firmware needed to be updated, or the battery's dying, or there's
Oh,
just something
a
that's
lost link near Highway 85 and a complete panic and meltdown as I'm doing a demo. I
oh
was
yeah,
like, this is it. I just started and this is all about to just go away now. Yeah, you're
yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah, and that's where experience comes in. And for the new pilot, if you don't have a place to train, I'm not really quite sure that you should get into the, you know, industry because I have been fortunate. I've got areas around me that I can go and I can take my drone out, and I know that I'm not going to hurt anybody. I might hit a tree, might hit the side of a old, decrepit building, but at least it gives me the opportunity of getting out there and learning how to get those kind of shots that are needed. Because when I first got started, I was so far away from the subject, and as I got more comfortable, I would get closer and closer in. But those early days were, it's like, hey,
Brutal.
it's a spec.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I'm
Like, let me
flying
get a
it.
little tighter in.
Yeah.
And that NIST training will definitely tighten you up in terms of getting, extremely close. What did you pick up from Expo? I know you're just getting back from that. I don't want to leave without giving you a chance to
Oh,
kind of talk about that for a second. I saw some of your pictures on LinkedIn.
oh well, Expo to me has been every year has been different. The first year I went, oh my gosh, I was gawking at all the stuff that was on the floor. I just couldn't get enough of it. Didn't want to go see a conference. Didn't want to do anything except for look at stuff. So over the years, I've gone from looking at stuff to attending conferences to attending the keynotes to, having conversations. This year for me, uh, it was more about getting together with my colleagues and discussing the industry from the inside. Uh, I really think that, staying in it as long as that I have has given me the opportunity to really get into some really engaging conversations and potentially start influencing what's going on in the marketplace. I know you run into the same thing too. It's This year I found the conference to be really, really very engaging, and I like the fact that um, the AUVSI chapters were all diverse and we don't agree on everything. And
Right.
I really appreciate that we don't agree because there's always that common ground. And, if you can agree to disagree, you've already conquered a huge step. And that is that you can stay in the same room and you don't walk out of there as hated enemies. And
That's true.
so I think as an industry, we've progressed to a point to where we are sitting down and we are discussing the challenges that are in the marketplace and trying to find solutions.
Yeah,
So,
this is
so
good.
yeah, so exponential was great for me. It really was, and I ended up staying up till the wee hours of the morning, just in in-depth conversations with a lot of people.
That's
But,
great.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to next year. It's going to be in Detroit, which is going to be interesting. So
Okay. Here we come, Motown.
yeah,
Um, well, listen, here's one question for you. This is a new thing that we're doing. If
uh-huh.
your drone had a name and a theme song every time you took off, what would they be and why?
Well, all my drones. If you're part 107, they have to have names.
They have to.
So when I first got in it, I was like, oh my god, I got to have name. So I went Top Gun. So my first one was Maverick. Iceman has hit the water. Goose is no longer in
Mm,
service.
no longer.
Hollywood is was a leased drone. I've had Viper. I've got Joe. So
I
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
So,
So
and obviously, it has to be the original Top Gun theme music too. That would be the theme music for you.
oh no, I use music to calm myself down. So it's whatever's
Okay.
playing on the radio at the
At
time
the
that I
time.
yeah, because I love music. I can't find anything that I just
All
is
right.
a permanent thing. But I do know
Okay.
that there have been opportunities like the day of the AUVSI event.
Yes.
Okay, I woke up that morning and it started off with the Rolling Stones playing "You Can't Always Get What You Want," and after the event, and it's no lie, after the event, I got in the car, I turned on the radio, and it's "We Are the Champions," and I was like, "Oh my God, what a great day!"
There you go.
Yeah,
Kismet. It's all working together.
yeah. So yeah, like I said, I feel like I'm very blessed to be in this industry and to know people like yourself. I mean, it's
Oh.
because this is the kind of stuff that is needed for
Mm-hmm.
everybody.
Agreed. Agreed.
And if there was one thing I would like to share to the pilots out there, the one thing that really concerns me as a drone pro is normalizing a deviation. And that is similar to like speeding in your automobile. Just because you never have been caught doesn't mean that you've got permission to speed. Well, in the drone industry, it's like flying over people or flying too high or flying beyond line of sight. Unless you've got the authorizations to do it, those are the things that people tend to normalize and continue to do. And I think that those are the things that are going to harm our industry overall.
Agreed. Yeah, it's to your point. I hope it's not a matter of, if or when, because that's quite devastating, and that would impact so many people in some very, unfortunate ways. So we're going to continue to do our work on the education side. But Lamar Ellis, I'm so happy to have had you and look forward to seeing you soon. So
Definitely.
thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you again before long.
Oh, I know we will. I know we will. Thank you, Bronwyn.
All right.
Always great
Thank
to see you.
you.
Have a
You
great day.
too. All
Thank you.
right. Thank you so much.